Welcome back, dear friends. What an exciting day, because we're going to start on the TARDIS. Apologies for the slight croakiness. The TARDIS, finally, the Steampunk Tardis console. And I've been busy doing other things, as always, because I've been working with Dan to sort out the plans and to turn his virtual designs done on SketchUp into things that I can actually make. But as always, never a dull moment. Look, Bodicea brooches. My wife's involved, and I too, I suppose, a little bit these days, in amateur dramatics, and she's taking part, she's acting in a play that's coming up, that they needed a Bodicea club of some sort. And it was interesting to design the face, because obviously it's theatrical, so it needs to be really obvious, and the director sent me a picture, a small image of a coin. So I drew around each of the layers that I thought would work, and then imported them into 3D Builder, and then just raised or lowered them to different heights. It's actually worked really well. As I say, from a distance with theatre, you want things to be very obvious, so I was pleased with those. Gears, you say? I hear you cry. Well, the other thing I've been doing is making more ready-made motorised Kraken gauges, because I realised I'd suddenly sold the last one. And the problem that I had was drive belts. I'd found a really good source of very good quality rubber bands, drive belts, which is from a tattoo artist suppliers, because apparently you need these to hold the needle onto the motor or the vibrating mechanism at the top that drives the needles in and out. And I've used these for ages, and I ordered another load recently, and they're half the size. Now they are stretchy, obviously, but the force necessary to connect the little motor spindle to the first pulley, it's too tight. It would work, but the motor and the spindle will wear down far too quickly. Oh, what a pain. So, dear friends, I came up with an idea. I was looking on the internet for related things, as you do, and came up with the idea of O-rings. So I ordered a variety of O-rings of different sizes, 1mm diameter though. They'll be very good quality rubber, and I finally found the right length. I can't remember what it is now, but I've ordered 10 of them, so that's most exciting, because now I know I've got a reliable source of drive belts. How fantastic. In other news, I finally turned that, which are my laser cutting measurements, because the useless software doesn't remember any of the speeds or powers. You have to enter them manually each time. When you take things out of the freezer, you rest it, well I don't, but my wife and daughter do, you rest it on this and it just slowly dissolves. Look, I finally got round, after a very long time, years, to actually record it all in a nice spreadsheet. A little bit of a wittering session, but it's a nice introduction. And here it is. The TARDIS console base that I finished some time ago. All these bits are the big prongs that bolt onto here that stick out. The little prongs, there's 3 that go around that just go down to the ground. So what I've decided to do, first of all, thinking about how to construct this, is I'm not going to worry about doing the console, the switches yet. I'm going to start in the very middle. I'm not going to have a pole, a scaffolding metal pole going up the middle to support all of the different central pieces and all the other bits and pieces, and supports the bearings, because there's 2 pieces that need to move up and down, and give it structural strength. Because the middle bit is so complicated, this is fascinating. I'm really keen to get started on this. It's very difficult when I'm looking at SketchUp drawings to work out how big things are, especially with something as complicated as a TARDIS console. So I've been working out how to make these different bits and pieces, and as you can hear, I've ended up relying on the 3D printer. How fantastic. And here it is, my wonderful Ender 3 Pro. So little care, and yet it just keeps going. Fantastic. What's it printing though? Well, I've got a very complicated circular shape to fix in the middle with mesh around it, so I thought I'd do an experiment and see if it would print. And it has worked. It's an absolute joy. I got it to print on a nice thick detachable raft, so it's got something to stick to actually start printing and support itself. I didn't use any supports because if you actually print a circle, it doesn't need any supports. It actually copes with slowly building up, and then obviously it's easy for it to finish the top of the circle. And there it is. And look, I printed it this way up. There's a slot in it because my ability will only extend as far as 3D Builder, which is lovely and free with Windows and all the rest of it. I had to create this from lots and lots of little segments, so I really didn't know how well that would work. But it worked beautifully. You can't see that they're all separate, dozens of little separate segments. And this is going to be fascinating because I'm going to be combining 3D printing with laser cut parts, which is really exciting. Another really exciting thing that arrived, two of these thrust bearings. Most of the bearings I use are rotary bearings with balls that just go round and round and round, but these ones, because I need to support the weight of the whole of the central part, which is going to rotate at different speeds, I need some way of supporting that. And oh, they're beautiful thrust bearings, and that's lovely. The post I've got to go up the middle, the metal tube, is 48mm diameter, and this is a 50mm diameter hole in. So that's absolutely ideal. I've got one for top, one for bottom. They're beautiful. I do love bearings. It's such a clever idea, the fact that the balls can just not rub against anything, they just twist. That's lovely within their tracks. Lovely tracks. So that's good. I can't wait for the other bits to arrive. Heavens to Betsy. Look what's just come through the door. I think that's the longest box I have ever received. What could be inside? How lovely. 3 metre lengths of 15mm copper pipe. And I've managed to find one company that will deliver this. Several plumbing merchants online charge you 200 quid for postage if you order any copper pipe, but BES, no affiliation, as always, they've got it. Quality control is my watchword. Zzz. Lovely. So I'll leave them running now for sort of half an hour or something, just to make sure they all continue to function properly. Talking of more pipe, look what's just arrived. Wow. Again, I only ordered it on Friday and it's arrived already, and it's just about 2:30 on Monday. It's amazing. No affiliation, but I've been very impressed with them. They've got brilliant stock. And I've gone, this is the pipe to go up the middle, the structural one. And I've gone for, they sell it as handrail, and they have a whole load of different sizes, diameters. This is 48mm. And they sell all these amazing fittings. It's like a sort of grown-up Meccano. My only concern is it weighs a fortune. That's not right, is it? Costs a fortune, weighs a ton. Weighs a ton. And obviously, because this has to be movable, the TARDIS, the final TARDIS console, I've got to be very careful to ensure that it can continue to fit through doors and doesn't weigh too much. This horrible suspicion that I'd made that too wide to fit through the door, but I didn't. So that's good. It's so easy to do that sort of thing. You just focus on this and you get carried away, and then you suddenly find that you're going to have to take your windows out to get it out of the room. Ridiculous, I tell you. Because I want 2 steel wires to go down inside this to pull the top load of rods up and down, I thought mounting because I haven't really got very much metal working equipment here, so I took it on these T-pieces because it's fun and because it could slot on there, and then I could mount 2 big bearing pulleys either side to guide the steel wire up and down inside. A cunning plan, if ever there was one. Now today, what I want to do is to make the basket-shaped things. So I'm going to want to make that and that, these 2 sort of basket things, which look like this, which is a detail that Dan kindly sends me. Now, initially, I looked at this and thought, as I regularly do, what looks like that's mass-produced that I can easily get? Hanging baskets, I thought to myself. an hour of looking through pages of hanging baskets. Sadly, there wasn't one the right size. So what I've done is I've drawn out the bits necessary to make one from acrylic. And here we have the salient parts. A side view. What a joy. Plan views. Lovely. So this is a side view. There's a tube that goes up the centre to hide the metal support tube. Top bit, these are the curves, there's 12 of them, and then the two bits at the bottom. So there's the two big bits. I'm going to cut these out to 5mm. There's the top bit with 12 little dimples, cheeky little flats on it to glue the tops of these bits on, and I'm going to cut them out of 10mm acrylic, because otherwise they're just going to be too thin and small and stuff. Let's get cutting. Oh, now I get a better idea of the actual size of this thing. It's really small. This is such a joy. It's lovely. I've got my plate glass bit to make sure it's flat. I've got it lined up and everything, and now I'm just gluing these around the spot of super glue. It's lovely. I sanded the ends just lightly to make sure that they were properly square. And because it was sitting on those bits of wood, they've cut out beautifully, so I don't really need to do any other work. But it is amazing how small it is. It really is. It is doing my head in. I thought this was going to be sort of like at least twice the size of it. And in the blink of an eye, there's two of them. Excellent. I started cutting out the next one and I realised it was working. In the end, I lined it up by putting the cutout of that. Well, actually, here's the cutout of the base. I marked the centre and found that this socket was 45mm high. That's useful. So I lined it up with the middle, visually, like you do. Rested the top bit on top, in the middle, visually, like you do. And just glued the first one on and then just went round. And they really do seem to be centred and also horizontal. So I'm very pleased about that. Anyway, I'm now cutting out these bits, because these are going to form the top and bottom parts that hold the bearings, that's right, that support the whole of the central part to allow it to twist around. And that's going to, I've decided in the end, I was thinking about 3D printing them, but it takes so long, and I just really like gluing pieces of acrylic together and then sanding them, to be honest with you. So I'm cutting them out of 10mm thick acrylic and then going to glue them all together and then sand them back and all the rest of it, because I've got to have holes drilled in them for the 15mm copper pipes to come down and fit in. So that's fun too. It's all relative, isn't it? To cut through 10mm acrylic at 40% power to preserve the optics, it's 1.4mm a second. So yes. During the meanwhile, though, the final and fourth of these pieces for that basket container thing, it's been printed. It's 95% done. It's only taken 7 hours and 11 minutes. Excellent. Just a check, just out of interest. Well, look at that. It's not bad, is it? Considering it does wibble wobble a titchy bit by like a millimetre, but because this is going to be going around quite slowly, that's absolutely fine. And it really, because the cost of this is really got to be kept as low as possible, you've just got to make compromises really. I could have got it perfect, but it would have taken a lot longer and I'd have had to have made up all sorts of jigs and things. Brilliant. What a thing of beauty it is too. So once that's all glued together and sanded and everything, that's the idea. I've got to cut out a 3mm ring to get the bottom to hold that thrust bearing, and the tube that covers the central bit should just push down and sit on that. And then to fix the copper pipes around the outside, I've made 6 of these. 15mm hole in it. I'm going to glue that on there, spray it up nice and brass, and that'll be a really nice little flange. I did look at buying them, but you just can't get them. The only ones you can get have got a big lump of copper pipe stuck out the back. Sort of tap adapters or converters, I think they're called. What a lovely sight. First thing in this very morrow. Lots and lots of lovely exciting making going on. So we've got those two. I've glued all those on and took the dog for a walk, so they're the lovely little 15mm copper entries. About to stick to that together. The gauze has arrived to do the outside of the basket piece. It won't be called a basket piece, but it seemed like a good idea at the time, as I know what I mean. I've got those 4 outer bits sanded. These bits printed surprisingly well. I printed them flat, because each one's got a 45-degree slot through it for the piece of black plastic. If you think about the side view of it, as it's printing each layer, this is all okay. It gets to this one, and suddenly it's having to string across a big gap. These ones are okay, because once it's reached there, it's got something. Oh, and that one, now that's alright, because that's already doing that. It's that one, and surprisingly, the only problem is it just sags down a bit. I suppose with the tension of the PLA filament, it's enough to pull it right across that gap. Isn't that amazing? So I'm just using a needle file just to file out the bit that hangs down. Not much to do at all. It is incredible. I know I could include some support structures up inside here, but it's such a pain trying to get them out again. I think it's easier just like this. It is all going very well, and plastic's just arrived. We've got long pieces of plastic and short pieces of plastic. Now I'm going to open this one now, because in there hopefully there's the centre bit, and I have sort of in the back of my mind been waiting to check that it does fit in here. I can't ever remember, 56mm diameter, that's right. Well, it wasn't the wider ones, it was the 16 or so frosted acrylic tubes. These are going to be going up and down. I'm very impressed with the packaging. That's fantastic, completely undamaged. I can recommend the company, they've been ever so helpful. They're called Plastock on the internet. No affiliation as always, but I had to change my requirements, my order a couple of times as I worked out what was actually required, and they were very helpful. So currently this is the bit we're interested in. I'll unwrap it and hopefully it'll push through the middle of that. Well, it doesn't fit, because this is actually 57, more like 57 than 56. It's tolerances and stuff, so I'm really glad I didn't glue these together, because I can now use a sanding disc or abrasive disc or something just to sand down the insides of each of them. Luckily, a couple of passes with this sanding disc old drum works a treat. Give it another test. Yes, perfect. I've sanded both sides of each piece of 10mm acrylic flat on the sanding machine, just because wherever the laser cuts there's sometimes a slight raised edge. And I'm now going to glue these together. I have my plate glass and I have my lovely V blocks. I must get some more bigger V blocks, because they have 1,000 uses around the home and garden. So I'm going to use them to line them up and glue those together. Not glue them onto there yet, but I'll glue them together, because I can then sand the outside. Do you see where I'm going with this? If I glue that onto that, I can't. It's one of those things. There we are. Sanded, glued together, sanded on the inside, line it up, and on the outside. Now I realised, whilst doing this, for the top one and for other things similar to this, you can't reliably line it up by pushing it into V blocks and things like that. It needs to be more precise. So for the future ones, I'm going to drill or laser cut 2 small holes, sort of 2mm diameter or something, in the same place on each slice. Then once they're printed, I'll draw them out to say 3mm, and then I'll line them all up to glue them by putting a 3mm rod through each one, so that I know they're precisely lined up. And then of course I need to line up the disc that holds the bearing in place really precisely with the rest of this, because I didn't drill any pilot holes or lining up holes. The lathe, the wonderful lathe. So I'm gripped that in it, spun it, and it's beautifully aligned. And I've got the bit that I cut out the middle of this bit, if you see what I mean, with a hole, 9.8mm diameter hole, because it's M10, none of the 10mm holes here, high tolerances, and then 2 pieces of sellotape wrapped around the edge to make up for the width of the laser cut. I am hoping that this is going to work well. I can't see why it wouldn't. Fingers crossed. The other great thing about wrapping sellotape around the outside is a bit like packing tape, it's probably made from the same stuff. Super glue won't stick to it, so you don't end up with the jig getting glued in with everything else. And now it's time to take Ziggy for a walk. Oh, do you want to walk, Ziggy? Are you looking forward to that? Yes. Oh, look at you. Yeah. Why drill and tap 3 holes when you've got 6 sides? This is the whole thing about Tardises, or Tardi, or I'm not sure what the plural is. Let me show you. I've got to fix, as we said before, 6 of these on, and I was thinking I could glue them on. But then, of course, the cage sort of thing that's made of these pipes, these 6 15mm copper pipe assemblies, encloses all the middle bit. And I really do hate fixing things together so they cannot be sort of taken apart for access, for repair or whatever. So I decided in the end that I'm going to glue the pipes into these bits, and then these bits are going to screw onto here with M43 brass M3 screws. So I've marked out and drilled. Can you see that? There are 3 holes, and I'm slowly going round tapping each of the holes. It's lovely this actually, because you can see right down inside where the super glue has glued it properly all the way around. It makes it transparent again, so you can see right down inside. Look, dear friends, isn't that a joy? That's lovely. And then the 15mm copper pipes with the elbows somewhere or other, they can all glue into there, and that means I can assemble the centre part and then screw these on afterwards. Oh, that's lovely. And the other good thing about Tardises is that I've now got to go ahead and make another complete one of these for the top. But at least it gives me the opportunity to practice and then hopefully get it right the second time round. I just had a thought. I like spinny things, as you know. There's the bottom of the thrust bearing. Let's sit that on top, and then... oh, look! And look! It's really centred. Very well. It's time to start putting the cage parts together, which I'm looking forward to. Now, because there are 4mm holes through all these different bits to reinforce most of the joints, I was thinking about using steel and brass, and I remembered I had some lovely 4mm diameter hardwood beech dowel. This will be quite strong enough, and it will also allow me just to sand round the ends to line it up with the plastic. Look at that! How exciting. What I've realised is, of course, now I've actually gone to the trouble of printing out an image of it, is I've forgotten 2 of these. There's 4 of them. It's very difficult to see because that's hidden by there, but I just noticed. Right, time to do some more 3D printing. Well, that's good as well. The central column fits. So we've got lots and lots of gluing, intricate gluing, but that's great. And then, whilst I'm waiting for the other 2 things to print, of course I can sort out the gauze. First thing is to calculate, it's going to be interesting, the circumference, the length that the gauze has to be. 211 by 98.5. You say that looks too small. So I've just realised that that's the width, the 211, of a piece of A4. Tried it in the slot and it's the perfect length. If only I had a guillotine, but I haven't. So, not one for metal anyway. So I think I'm going to try and use a standing knife actually, or a box cutter as they say in America, because it's aluminium, so it should cut it without any problem. Because obviously if you use tin snips or scissors or something, it shears it apart, but also bends up one side, and you end up with a right old mishmash, which you then have to delicately put right. I may well end up having to do it that way, but I'll try a standing knife to start with. It did work. Another top tip from Steamhead. You can cut aluminium gauze with a Stanley knife. Look, rolling it round a tube initially to get the lines, to get it in the opposite direction, because they're all vertical here. It just didn't look right, so back to horizontal. That worked well. Bit of masking tape on first, and it just holds it together. And I rolled the edges with one of those sort of wallpaper roller things, just to make sure all the little prongs were flat. Oh, what a joy. I want to make these little colour bits now black and white. Interesting. I thought that was nothing there. No, I thought there was nothing there, and then I had a closer look and I think that's white, that's black. So I've cut out them, and I've cut out two of these. Do you see why? If I do that and put that across there, there we are. That is that, and that means now I've got the height precisely. I can glue the two supports for that onto each of these. So that's exciting, the first bit of gluing in this part of the project. So that becomes that. Shiny, shiny. What I've just discovered, however, is that these 12 square bits, this black 2mm sheet is actually 2.2mm, and because the little slots that they have to fit in are so precisely cut and filed lovingly, they don't fit. Whereas this bit is 2mm, so I'm going to have to cut it. I need to remember to keep checking tolerances on all of the materials. It's ridiculous. 0.2mm, 0.1mm normally wouldn't make any difference, but in this project it certainly does. As with all my videos, I want to finish them with some sort of achievement, painted items finished. I can't this time because it's just going to go on and on and on. So thanks very much for watching. Hope to see you again. It's all most exciting. Next time I'll get the middle bit, the centre bit that's going to revolve, painted and assembled and all together and lovely. I look forward to hopefully seeing you then.